So when I was 300 pounds, I thought that losing all that weight would actually help my knee pain. But sadly, when I actually lost the weight, I found out that my knees were still really weak. I still had a hard time squatting below parallel. I have videos in my backyard in 2020 when I was like trying to do kettlebell swings and all these other things. And I remember thinking like, wow, my quads are on fire, but my knees are kind of hurting. I don't know if this is the right way I should be squatting. During this time, I was actually training to be a Muay Thai fighter. I was running every day. I was trying to lose weight because my crew, my Thai instructor was telling me that he wanted me to compete at 180. And I just lost 100 pounds, right? I went from 300 to 200, and he was like, no, you still need to lose another 20 pounds. So I was doing everything I could to do that. And I ended up just running into a ton of injuries, right? Knee pain, lower back pain. I was really hurt, but I really wanted to compete. And the competition was about 3 months away. And I just kept scouting the internet for solutions to this. And everything was just telling me to like rest, ice, elevate. But to me, that wasn't an option because I really wanted to compete in this. And I just kind of kept doing research, and I ran into this guy called Ben Patrick, or knees over toes guy. And I saw him doing like a sissy squat into a reverse Nordic, cold. And the first thing I thought was, wow, I really want to learn how to do that. Maybe this guy can teach me a little something. And I started doing this program every day right before the class. Like I would get to Muay Thai class like 15 minutes early. And I would do this little routine on the side over there by the grass next to the trucks. I actually have videos of this so I can go back and show you kind of how bad my form was back then because I was super weak at all these exercises. What I started realizing was if I'm gonna improve my ability with my knees, then I need to get better at these. So intuitively, I just started doing this routine. And I mean, it completely changed my life. Was able to then, squat deeper. My knees started becoming strong. I always had big legs because I was a big guy, but I actually started getting some muscle definition, which is something I've never had before. Like I would always skip squatting in high school and middle school because I was too scared of the bar. There were kids in high school that could squat like 500 pounds, and I was like struggling with just a plate. And I started getting knee pain and back pain from it. So I just stayed away from squats altogether. And this came back to bite me in the ass later on. Yeah, this routine is amazing. I highly recommend it. I'm gonna give you every single bit of the exercises. So we're gonna walk through those today. And the first thing really is just walking backwards as I'm doing here. Getting the knees over the toes on every step. And if this is too easy, I remember the next progression is kind of picking up the speed going on this. And if you have the equipment to do something like a reverse sled drag, it's one of the best things you can do because it's really safe. The more, let's say you put 1,000 pounds on there, and you start trying to pull it, you're not gonna get hurt, or unless you just absolutely just really, really try. It's very hard for you to get hurt because there's no weight bearing down on you, as opposed to a squat, right? I said these kids were squatting with 500 pounds on their back. If you were to just go into that cold in a squat and you don't have the ability to even squat with your own body weight, it's very likely you're gonna get hurt. But with a sled, you can put as much weight on as you need on there, you just can't move it, right? It's all concentric movement, which brings healing and blood flow to the knees and strengthens the quads. Then when you go forward with a sled, you're working the back of the legs. But anyways, we're doing this without equipment, right? So Knee Ability Zero is a program that we're talking about here. And what Ben Patrick found in mimicking this sled will be starting with just a wall. You can actually train the muscles of your lower legs going up to your knees. So we're gonna start from the ground up. And the reason we wanna do this is the stronger you are from the ground up, the more you can handle in athleticism in your body, right? Because you need a good strong foundation for you to be able to handle the forces of a deep squat, the forces of landing from a jump or kicking, right? You need to be strong here in the feet because you can always be too strong for your ankles, but your ankles can be too strong for your knees, right? You can be too strong at the hip for your knees, but your knees can't be too strong for your hips to handle, right? So you want to be strong from the ground up. You want to be built like a rocket, not like an anvil like most bodybuilders are. So by the end of this routine, you will not have an excuse to skip leg day. The first thing you do here are your tibialis raises. You can bring your butt to the wall, bring the chest slightly forward, and you're going to point your toes to the sky, squeezing at the top, controlling on the way down. This is a great exercise for improving your ankle mobility, strengthening the front of the shin. This is called your tibialis anterior, the muscle in front of your tibia. This is a really underlooked muscle because it's clearly not like a sexy part of your body, but it's very important for handling the forces of landing, of jumping. And the stronger you are here, the less force is going to go up to your knee because this muscle right here absorbs it, right? So a good number of repetitions for this is 25 reps. Just You can even go to failure on this because it's another exercise that's rather safe for this, right? And another bonus tip on the tibialis anterior is it gives you a little bit more ability to squat. At the bottom of the squat, you want to flex your tibs, and this really helps to kind of cue squatting with the knees forward. And my ankle mobility is not the greatest right now, but it's come a long way because of this exercise. And here I'm thinking to squeeze my tibs as hard as I can to keep the heels down. So next we're gonna go to the back side of the ankle, working it from a stretched position, going against the wall and keeping your body straight, right? This is a straight leg calf raise. This type of calf raise works mostly your flexor hallucis longus, which is a fancy name for the muscle that points your big toe. And you're coming all the way down to a stretch and then squeezing at the top, controlling down. The reason we want to do this from a stretch is because it increases your flexibility and strength in your ankle, which helps you to bulletproof the Achilles muscle, or the Achilles tendon. So that calf raise, the straight leg, works mostly the FHL, flexor hallucis longus, and the gastrocnemius, which is the meaty part here in your calf. Then there's a second type of calf raise in this routine. So 25 reps on the tibialis, 25 reps on the flexor hallucis longus, and you can go from 2 legs to 1 leg. Just getting 25 reps on 1 leg is a sign of a strong Achilles. And you're gonna be a lot more protected than someone that can't do that. So we work two of the calf muscles. Now we have the third one, which is the soleus. For this one, you have to bend the knee slightly, keep the chest up. You're only moving the ankles here. Everything else stays like it is, right? Bent knees, chest up. Your soleus is known as the second heart of the body because it pumps blood from the legs back up to your heart through your veins. And the stronger this muscle is, generally the more endurance you have, the more balance you have. And an easy way to scale this is still going from 2 legs to 1 leg on this one. And this is a really easy one. You could add weight here, like a milk jug, anything like that. So this is not only working the soleus muscle, which is super important for balance and endurance, you're also doing an isometric hold on the quads. So with putting that knee over the toe, you're activating the quads. You're really trying to get this warmed up before we get into the rest of the routine, right? So 25 reps here as well. And now we got quite a pump on the legs, right? We've very much mimicked what you would be doing on a sled, but we haven't done that position of the knee over toe for the knee, right? We just did the lower leg. So now we're gonna get into step-ups, reverse step-ups. There's 3 kinds of reverse step-ups. Today we're gonna be covering the one with the heel down. So a reverse step-up here is called the Patrick step-up, named after Ben Patrick. And we're just putting the knee slightly over the toe, keeping the chest up, keeping this toe up on the other leg, touching the heel to the ground. So 25 reps each side on this one. It's gonna help us to strengthen the knee, strengthen the quads. And because we're getting that knee over the toe, you're not necessarily isolating the vastus medialis, but you are strengthening it more than the other 3 quads in this position. So 25 reps here helps you improve the amount of pressure that your knees can handle, as well as a little bit of ankle mobility. When you see here, getting a little bit of a stretch on the ankle. And you can progress this by adding elevation or simply reaching further out with that other leg. That is step 5, right? We did walking backwards, and this is a bit more of a intense variation of that backwards walking motion, right? A reverse step up, because now we have a little bit of eccentric force. So we're putting pressure on the way down on the knee and then on the way up as well. Step 5 is the ATG split squat, which ironically, you can actually do this with a chair. I say ironically because this helps you to lengthen out the hip flexors that get super tight when we're sitting down, because you're always in this position, right? So if you look at this, this is basically the opposite of that sitting position. And with this exercise, you can start assisted with the front foot elevated to reduce the amount of stretch and the amount of pressure that you're putting on your knee. So you're going down. I always tell my clients you want to try to get your butt to your heel to recover that hamstring over the calf and keep this back leg as straight as possible, right? Keeping the chest up, coming down. So again, 3 cues: hamstring over the calf, back leg straight with the squeezing the quad, keeping the chest up. If this is too much of a gradient for you, you'll notice 2 or 3 things, right? You won't be able to keep this back leg straight, so you want to work towards that. You'll know if you're ready to progress to flat ground or to a lower front foot elevation because of three things, right? If this is too much stretch for you on the back leg, you'll find that you won't be able to keep this knee off the ground. You want to squeeze the quad here. If you can't quite do it, even squeezing as hard as you can, and if it feels like too much stretch, then I suggest elevating the front foot to reduce the amount of stretch there, right? Another thing is, if it's too much load, you'll have to lean forward slightly because your body's intuitively trying to take pressure off a knee to come up, right? So if you find that, again, elevate that front foot or use upper body assistance on the way up. So not only is this exercise lengthening those rear hip flexors, you're also strengthening the knees progressively a little bit at a time, right? Starting at a gradient that you can do without pain on the knee. The greatest thing about this is it stretches your quads and hip flexors simultaneously. Both will help take pressure off of that knee. But because you're progressively applying pressure to this, it improves your knee's ability to handle pressure. So that improves your ability to handle pressure in a jump, in a full squat. And then the best thing is you're doing that one leg at a time, which helps to correct any imbalances between legs. So now the couch stretch, this is a stretch you can do right from a chair. I remember using a tire for this stretch, a few videos of that, but generally to get in, you start on your knees, bring one leg up, the other leg is gonna come out, and then you gently posture up. So here, you're getting a big stretch on the quads, and by proximity, the hip flexors. Your rectus femoris, the quad that's up here, is connected to your hip flexor. So just by bending this quad right here and then posturing up, you're doing a tugging effect on that hip flexor, stretching it, getting a big deep stretch. So here, you wanna squeeze your quad and your glute so you get an isometric contraction and improve the ability, improve your mobility in this position. This is directly going to correlate to your ability to do the split squat as well. As you can see, this is that same position in the front leg. Using something with a bit more padding can be really useful. And now you have something that's a little bit more measurable, because the goal is to get your butt to your heel, and then eventually try to get the shoulders to the wall while your shin and knee are both on the wall as well. So we just handle the front of the leg with the split squats, the couch stretch. To lengthen the back of the leg, the hamstrings, you want to use the elephant walk. So this exercise is great it's really like a cheat code for improving hamstring length. You can start with something as high up as a chair and then slowly work towards getting your elbows to the chair. And what I'm doing here is I'm bending the knees and then stretching one hamstring at a time, right? Straightening out one leg at a time. This is putting a lot more tension on the hamstrings individually than it would if I was just trying to touch my toes here. So I really like this for strengthening and lengthening those hamstrings. And it's easy to scale because you just simply go lower, right? If you don't have anything lower than this, you can just put your hands out and then straighten the legs as you need to. And then, so the goal of this is being able to get palms to the floor with both legs straight. It's a great sign that you have strong and long hamstrings, and you have more ability to flex the spine as well. Next is the L-sit, which is a great exercise to strengthen the lower abs and the hip flexors. These are the muscles that pick up your legs, right? We're jacking up the lower legs, the quads, but what's the point of having all that leg strength if you can't even pick them up, right? And these muscles are also connected to your lower back. So for me, this was really the missing part. So I was already doing back extensions, deadlift, RDLs, but I didn't have any strength here in the front of the hips, right? These muscles are directly connected to the lower back. So you can literally start off a bench or a chair, something that's really sturdy, pick up the legs, working from bent leg to straight leg. Holding this for about 20 seconds is a good goal. You could even start on the ground and work on picking up one leg at a time. I would set a 1-minute timer, pick up the leg, hold 1 to 2 seconds, and set it down. The further forward your hands are, the more strict this is, and the further back, the easier. So anybody could probably start from this position, picking up one leg at a time, and gain the strength to be able to hold here. I can't even do it right now. We just did sprinting, so my quads are like, what are you doing, bro? This short 15 to 20 minute routine changed my life. I hope it can be helpful to you let me go. This 10 to 15 minute routine changed my life. It helped me to get rid of my knee pain so that I could then continue trying to, this 10 to 15 minute routine helped me. This 10 to 15 minute routine changed my life. It was the missing key that I needed to get rid of my knee pain, my lower back pain. I wasn't even expecting it to get rid of my lower back pain, but within 3 months, I was good to go. I ended up competing in that tournament that I was getting ready for at 180 pounds. I was in the best shape of my life, and I was way more athletic than my competition. So from that point on, I knew, I was like, okay, this is the way that I need to train to be more athletic, get stronger and more flexible, and ultimately just stay in the keep practicing for longer, right? Because the biggest thing that a martial artist can do to improve their game is to be in the gym more, right? So the biggest thing that was keeping me out of the gym were injuries, and this really helped me to reduce those injuries and to, just be more athletic for life. So I hope this can be helpful to you as well for reversing out sitting, for being more athletic, for getting back in the sports, in the martial arts. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe. If you haven't yet, go get the Knee Ability Zero book by Ben Patrick. Give me a follow, give him a follow, and elevate your life. Let's go.